What if I told you that one of the biggest revolutions in finance started in the dark corners of the internet, with a currency barely anyone knew about at the time, valued at less than $1? And at the heart of it all was a man named Ross Ulbricht, a name that would become infamous in both cryptocurrency history and the fight for digital freedom. In 2011, Ross Ulbricht launched Silk Road, a hidden online marketplace accessible only via the dark web. It was a place where anyone could buy or sell anything, from books and clothing to, well, much more questionable goods. The currency? Bitcoin. At that time, Bitcoin was mostly a curiosity among a few tech-savvy individuals, but Ross had a vision that extended far beyond nerdy discussions about digital coins. He saw it as the perfect currency to fuel a new type of marketplace, one that was free from government interference. Silk Road quickly became a phenomenon. It wasn't just a marketplace, it was a social experiment, a place where anonymity reigned and freedom was the core value. In 2012, it was estimated that Silk Road was handling around $22 million worth of transactions, at a time when Bitcoin was worth about $12 each. This was revolutionary. People all over the world were using Bitcoin for real purchases. For many, Silk Road was their first introduction to Bitcoin, an experience that changed the way they viewed money and online transactions. But Ross Ulbricht wasn't just trying to make money. He was driven by a deeper ideology, libertarian ideals about freedom, privacy, and the right to trade without government control. Ross believed in a world where people should be able to interact and exchange value on their own terms, free from the restrictions and surveillance of centralized powers. And for him, Bitcoin was the key to making that vision a reality. Ross was inspired by economic philosophers like Ludwig von Mises and Friedrich Hayek, who believed in minimal government interference. His motivation wasn't greed. He wasn't interested in becoming wealthy. He wanted to challenge the system and create something that would give power back to individuals. Silk Road was, in many ways, an embodiment of that dream. Yet with freedom comes chaos. Silk Road wasn't just used for trading ordinary goods. It also became a haven for the illegal drug trade, counterfeit documents, and much more. The freedom that Ross envisioned became entangled in a darker side of human behavior. As Silk Road grew, it became impossible for law enforcement to ignore. In October 2013, Ross Ulbricht was arrested in a dramatic raid at a public library in San Francisco. He was logged into Silk Road on his laptop when the FBI took him down. The arrest marked the beginning of one of the most high-profile legal battles of the internet age. Ross was charged with money laundering, conspiracy to traffic narcotics, and computer hacking, among other things. In 2015, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, a sentence that many found shockingly harsh for a first-time, non-violent offender. The arrest of Ross Ulbricht was a turning point in the history of Bitcoin. Suddenly, Bitcoin, which had mostly been associated with nerd culture and tech enthusiasts, was in the headlines, and not in a good way. People began to associate Bitcoin with illegal activity and the dark web. But at the same time, the fact that the US government had to auction off confiscated Bitcoin brought a level of legitimacy to the currency. It was an acknowledgement that, like it or not, Bitcoin was here to stay. Ross's trial was filled with controversy. Allegations of corrupt federal agents involved in the Silk Road investigation only fueled the debate about whether Ross had received a fair trial. 2 agents who were part of the Silk Road task force were later convicted of stealing Bitcoin during the investigation, something that many believe tainted the entire case against Ross. It made people question, was Ross really the villain they made him out to be, or was he simply a scapegoat? For those who see Ross as a hero, he is a symbol of resistance against a world dominated by governments and corporations that want to control every aspect of our lives, including how we spend our money. For them, Silk Road was about more than drugs. It was about challenging a financial system that they believed was broken. For his critics, Ross was reckless, and Silk Road was a dangerous experiment that put people's lives at risk by making illegal drugs more accessible. Regardless of where you stand on Ross Ulbricht, there's no denying his impact on Bitcoin and the world of cryptocurrencies. Silk Road proved that Bitcoin could work as a currency, not just in theory, but in practice. It brought Bitcoin into the mainstream, albeit for controversial reasons. And it laid the foundation for the explosion of interest in decentralized currencies that we've seen in the years since. Ross's story is also a cautionary tale about the power and the perils of innovation. He wanted to create a system that offered true freedom, but freedom without boundaries can sometimes have unintended consequences. By the time Silk Road was shut down, it was said that Bitcoin worth millions of dollars was flowing through the site, and it became clear that Ross's idealism had collided with a harsh reality. When you create a space for people to act freely, they won't always use that freedom in ways that are ethical or safe. Today, Ross Ulbricht is serving 2 life sentences, plus 40 years, without the possibility of parole. Meanwhile, Bitcoin has evolved, grown, and become a major force in global finance. What started as an experiment on a dark web marketplace is now part of the portfolios of Fortune 500 companies, and is considered by many to be the future of money. Ross still has many supporters, who argue that his sentence is unjust. They point to the fact that murderers and violent criminals often serve far less time than Ross, whose crime, they argue, was more about challenging the status quo than causing harm. His mother, Lynn Ulbricht, has been a tireless advocate for his release, gathering support from people who believe in the principles of justice, fairness, and rehabilitation. The story of Bitcoin and Ross Ulbricht is one of vision, freedom, and the unpredictable consequences of challenging the established order. It's a story that forces us to ask difficult questions. What does true freedom look like in a digital world? What role should governments play in controlling or regulating that freedom? And what happens when someone takes an ideal to its extreme? Ross once said, "The state may try to ban Bitcoin, but if we shy away from using it out of fear, we've already lost." His words echo through the cryptocurrency community even today. Bitcoin has come a long way from being the underground currency of choice on Silk Road to being a legitimate store of value and a powerful tool for financial independence. But the debates over privacy, freedom, and the role of government that Silk Road sparked are far from over. The story of Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road is a key chapter in the history of Bitcoin, a reminder that revolutions often begin with a bold idea, and that the individuals behind those ideas sometimes pay the highest price. Whether you see Ross as a visionary or a cautionary tale, his impact on the cryptocurrency landscape is undeniable. He helped show the world what Bitcoin could do, and his legacy is a complex blend of idealism, innovation, and the hard truths of human behavior. So, what do you think? Was Ross Ulbricht a pioneer of digital freedom, or did he cross a line that society can't ignore? The line between hero and villain is often blurry, and the legacy of Silk Road is proof of that. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to dive deeper into the untold stories of the digital revolution. Thanks for watching, and remember, every revolution starts with an idea, but it's up to us to decide where that idea takes us.